All right, welcome back. This time we're going to be building our path for our repeating textures. And this is actually an old trick. It's not actually built on the same piece of geometry. If we were to look at this, it's actually a separate piece with a transparency map applied to it. So this is actually a pretty easy thing for us to be able to do. The thing to be aware of is that it is repeating along just one position. It's not going back and forth. So that is something that is easy to accomplish, and we're going to do that in this next section right here. Okay, so here is a look at the texture that I created for this road. And as you can see, it's actually not too complex. It has a alpha map, and it has another alpha map and some dirt. And I'm going to actually delete all this so you guys can see how this can be created. Okay, we have our grass and we had our flowers. I'm actually going to duplicate our grass layers. I'm going to duplicate that group. I'm going to bring that up. The reason why I'm doing that is because I really like the colors that were going on in the texture here, and I want everything to feel like it's cohesively, it's like the same environment that I'm putting together, and so I want that rhythm of texture to be going throughout all of my pieces. So I'm going to use this one to start all this off. I'm actually going to merge this, and now that I have that, we're going to call that dirt base, and let's just go ahead and put that in a group. We'll call that group dirt. And now that we have, or drit, depending on how tired you are. Okay, we're going to make a new layer above this, and I'm going to go to Edit Fill. Now that I have that, let's try something like let's say hard light, or let's try hue. So what hue is doing is it's allowing the blend to only be transferring this hue to that next layer, and that actually gives me a really nice look to the texture right off the bat. So I really like this. Problem is that this is solid. So if I were to duplicate that, it would just look basically like the grass texture that repeat over and over again. And I want these edges to disappear. So to do that, I'm actually going to duplicate, or I'm actually going to hit, hold down Shift and select both of these, and Control G. Now that I have this, we'll call this Path 1. And what we're going to do with this is add a alpha. Now with this alpha, we don't want to paint white, we want to paint black, and we want to do that in a more organic way. So we want to find some sort of a shape that would match sort of an overgrowth bushes or something like that that would be going on. So I found Kyle's concept brushes right here, and this is actually perfect for me to go through here and erase out pieces of my path. So I'm just left click and dragging. Do that over here too. Now be very aware of how much path you're getting rid of. This is a texture for a path, not a texture for grass. So we don't want to have this whole thing get taken over by grass. We just want to give this a little bit better of a look. And the reason why you're seeing grass underneath that is because my grass layer is on. That kind of gives you a good idea of what this would look like once we're done. So now that I have something like this, I do have some cleanup I have to do, because this certain brush that I'm using, it left some kind of gray hues. If I turn off that other layer, you can actually see this isn't a solid, or it's not completely erased. So what we need to do is go to a standard round or something like that, and we're going to actually get a little bit closer, and we're going to make sure we are in black, and we're just painting this out. And again, we're doing this because we don't want to have, especially around these edges right here, we don't want to have this really weird sort of like a halo or this edge that could be happening when we were to paint this, or if we were to paint this and have a sloppy corner here. We want to make sure that this is completely gone. So I just want my brush tool to be standard. I want my flow to be 100%. And we go through here again. I missed a lot of that. You can actually see that quite a bit right here. And again, I'm getting rid of this as best as I can. I don't want to go too far inwards because that's actually going to wreck that really nice shape that I've got of the leaves coming through. So I'm just trying to make sure that I absolutely got the edge around here and the edge on here. I'm going to be definitely looking at this for your grading, so I want to make sure that you guys are definitely getting this, both edges to be gone. Okay, so now we can go in a little bit more, perform some more cleanup. Definitely going to go in a little bit more here. And there. Okay. That's looking better. If you need to, we could always go back to that brush. Where is that fancy little brush? I think it was something like that right there. And let's go back to the white. And now we're going to work in or outwards, but we're going to shrink it down a little bit. So I'm going to make sure that I have it on 100%, and I'm just going to left click. And for whatever reason, I just want brush. Maybe it doesn't want to cooperate today. These newer brushes in Photoshop have been awesome to experiment with, but also they're, I would say, for someone who's been using Photoshop for 22 years now, they're not what you're used to right off the bat. So it is taking some extra time for me to get used to this, and with our new hours and schedules and all that fun stuff, it's easy to mess up. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna just switch this out one more time to something like my standard brush. And again, I'm making sure I have killed all, well, I don't know why it's putting me in all the wrong brushes. There we go. Standard brush. Why? Okay, we're going to just increase the size on this, making sure our flow is all the way up, and I'm just getting rid of these edges. Okay, let's say that that's pretty good. Let's take this whole thing and let's see if we can do a filter other offset. So I have this, and I have the alpha selected, and I'm going to do filter other offset, and watch what happens. Okay, I have this set to vertical. You'll notice if I move this around, that image isn't moving. And the reason why is because the offset is only offsetting my alpha. So that's nice because I know that this is a repeating texture that I sampled this from for my grass layer, so I don't need to worry about that not matching up with a seam. However, I do know that I painted this with my hands, and I'm not a robot, so that means that there's going to be a bit of an offset going on, or there's going to be a bit of a seam going on where this bottom part won't match up with the top and vice versa. So I'm going to go into filter other offset, and I'm going to make sure it's at 512, and I'm going to hit OK. And that's on vertical. Now, I don't see any real problems, so that's great. That's telling me that everything's working pretty well. What I need to do now is to take this whole thing and to go into FX, and let's do a inner shadow. Okay, so inner shadow is going to give us that kind of little bit of a that the grass is creeping in to the wow, that's jumping up like crazy. We just want that to maybe be 2. Let's try 2 here. Okay, that looks a lot better than whatever the heck was just happening. Let me go back to that. My size was so big that it was throwing off the choke. So let me bring that maybe at a 4, and we'll do this at a 6. All right, that's a little bit better. So what this is doing is it allowing just to have a little bit of shadow. I don't need a lot of this. I can go with pretty little amount on this. So inner shadow is nice for this. And then bevel and emboss we could do. And we can do the same thing where I don't want my highlight mode to be on. So what I'm going to do is just drop that down to 0. And with my multiply, you can see how that's kind of pushing those edges further. Now, there is a bit of a problem. You can see that I have my top and my bottom all of a sudden having a bevel and emboss applied to that. And the reason for this is because what this is doing is it is making the bevel and emboss happen on the entire image. It's not just going to grab the sides, it's going to grab here too. So that's going to give a line to that. So that's something that we don't want. So how do we get rid of this line that is showing up in here? Let me zoom in. You see that very clear line going across the top. How do we fix that? That's an actually easy thing to do by duplicating this group. And I'm going to turn off bevel and emboss and turn off inner shadow. Now, with both of these off, I have 2 layers. I have this top layer that has nothing on it, and this bottom layer that has those effects applied to it. So with this top layer selected, I'm actually going to grab a brush, and I'm going to go in straight up nuke mode. I'm going to go gigantic with this. And I'm going to paint this out. What this is doing, you just grab a different brush here, is painting out the pieces. What I'm trying to get, and you can see it right here, I want to keep this seam and that seam, so the tops and bottoms of my texture, but I don't want anything else. So what I'm doing is painting everything else out. And that looks pretty good. Now if you make a mistake, let's say I do something like that. Oh no, I've ruined it, right? So if I zoom in, use the brush tool, hit the X key to flip it. So now we're in white. Scale down and just brush across that. And do the same thing over here. Now, if it looks like that's starting to give a hard edge to it, let's just grab this smudge tool and smudge that. There we go. Do it over there. Cool. All right. Now that I have that, let's clean up this. I can see there's another seam there, so I'm gonna use the B key, brush, go over here, and I'll say that that's pretty good. All right. Now that we have something like this, if we wanted to have grass creeping in or anything like that, we can go into here and let's just use a brush, and I'm in this path. I'm gonna just paint one out, and that doesn't look like grass is creeping in. It looks like there's a hole. So we could try to use an organic shape one, like one that we're messing with, this foliage. And this one's a bit of a pain to work with. I'm gonna go and scale that down. You can see it's kind of giving me that. I'm tapping that a few times to get that to work for me. I'm gonna go like that maybe. I'm gonna go over here and do that a couple times. You'll notice there, my other brush or my other layer right there is conflicting with that one, so we're not gonna be able to get a clean edge there. So we're just gonna move down a little bit, go right here. Let's go right there and there. Vary your brush sizes, that way we're not making the same thing over and over again. All right, let's say that this is good. I'm gonna go to File, Save As. This is gonna be a PNG this time. And we'll call this Dirt Path for class. Okay, now again, that's not what I want you to name this. This is just for me to Get this demo over with. And now in Maya, we got to put that on our gray path. So to do that, we are going to go into our hypershade, and we are going to create a material. We're going to create a blend, and we are going to go into that blend file, and if we go into dirt path for class, open that up. Let's also make sure our specular is off. We don't need that for this one. So we'll call that dirt path material. And now let's add that to our path. So I'm just middle mouse button, drag that to the path. Or have it selected and right click, assign material to selected. Okay, cool. Now I've got it on my path. I have a major problem though. It doesn't exactly look like it's the path I painted. It looks kind of like a blown up version of that. How do I get that to look better? Well, if I have this selected and I go into my UVs, let's see if there's a problem. Yeah, there's a problem. I made a repeating texture that should be 0 to 1, and this is taking little tiny bits of it. How do we fix that? Select it all. Split. Now they're all separate. Move them down. So we're going to stack them up. And I know we could do this faster with a press of a button, but we're getting some practice here. So there we go. Now they're all stacked. I'm going to grab these UVs and scale them down so they're all on top of each other. So there's those and these and these. Okay. Now that I have these corner ones, I'm going to hold down the X key, snap it to the bottom. Oh snap. Now I'm going to grab these, snap them over here, and these, and these. Alright, let's close this. Oh boy, look at that path. So, right away, it looks okay. It could use some help though. This side looks okay. Could use a little bit of help. This side, it's got that giant chunk right there. I don't like it. Let's go back into Photoshop. There's that chunk. And what I'm going to do is just go into my alpha and paint that back out. So that's gone now. Now I'm also going to just kind of use the alpha to bring some other of these pieces in. It's a little too linear, so I'm just kind of going to eat away at some of these spots here. Now don't go too drastic with this. We just kind of want to nibble at some of these sides. And we don't want them to be right across from each other. That's too obvious. So let's see what this does. So I'm going to hit File, Save As, JPEG. Oh, no, it's PNG. Dirt path for class. Yes. Okay. Alright. That's so much better. So now we have a dirt path and we have our ground. Now what's really cool about all this, if I were to hit the D key and change where my pivot is. So if I go and hold on the X key and snap that, or sorry, the V key, snap that over to here. If I hit Control D and then hold down the V key, I can snap. Control D, V, snap. And now I have this like linear path that's going on. This is exactly how my paper plane 3, our assets were using a trench in the middle and repeating textures that would go over down the side. So that's how the level was constructed that way. Now this doesn't look like something I would say would be the best movie set. It's too linear and is right down the middle. However, let's go into, let's mesh combine these. And I'm going to grab the vertices and I'm going to grab all of those and give that a shift. Let's move those over a little bit too. And let's grab these and do the opposite. Let's grab this whole row. Go that way. So you can see that if you plan this stuff out, you can start to get some nice stuff going on here, and it's going to look a little bit more organic. First, think linearly and think about how you can construct this stuff in the most modular of ways, and then you can start to build these pieces out very quickly. So this is our path, and our last step is to add a sky that goes around this thing.